In this lecture, we're going to talk about how to paint objects that are glowing. So here's an example of what we're going to be painting. We're doing a cube again. I want it to look like there's this glow emanating from the inside of the cube. So I'm going to show you how to get this effect and how you can add it to anything else you paint. So we're going to go ahead and turn these layers off, and we're going to start with just the basic green cube. You can download this from the resources and paint on top of it. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and make a new layer. And we're going to set this layer to multiply, okay? Now on this layer, we're going to get a very light green color about here. And we're going to be using a soft airbrush with the size brought down pretty low. And then I'm going to select my shape layer for the box so we don't paint outside the lines, okay? So we're making sure we're on the right layer, set to multiply. And we're going to go ahead and come in here and darken up some of these edges here. Now the reason we're doing this is because the light is coming from the inside, and where these edges are is where it's farthest away from the light and things start to get the thickest. And I'm actually going to bring this a little bit darker as well. There we go. Okay, and I'm just bringing it along the edges here, darkening things up. I don't want it to be perfect, right? The more that you kind of vary things with the stroke, the more it will feel like there's a consistency to it, right? There's some swirling going on inside instead of just, a perfect plastic cube or something like that. Okay, so I'm kind of keeping that in mind as I go. Then I'm bringing it along this edge here. I'm kind of curving the corners a little bit. Now, keep in mind, even though something's glowing, there's still going to be light hitting it, unless the glow is so bright that it's brighter than all other light sources around it, it's still going to have a little bit of shading. So you can see that we still have our shadow side and our light side, right? So it still has a little bit of that going on. Okay, perfect. So that'll do for that so far. Next, what we're going to do is come up here, we're going to make a new layer, and we're going to set this one to overlay. Okay, then we're going to pick a different color. Instead of what we have here, we're going to pick a really bright blue color, very saturated, very bright. And with our airbrush selected, we're going to just start painting a glow in the middle of this cube. And I want to feel like it's centered towards the middle. So I'm keeping it right here in perspective where I think that would be. Okay. Excellent. And let's experiment if we move this down below. I think that looks better. I'm going to actually move this below our multiply layer when we do this. Okay. I'm going to bring it a little bit more saturated, and we don't want to do that. I want to keep it bright. Nope, let's just keep it where it was at. But we are going to move it all the way over here to almost white to really get inside the center here where it glows the brightest. Okay. Excellent. And then we can Gaussian blur this just a little bit to really get that glow effect. Excellent. Now, we're not quite done yet. I'm going to take my shape layer that I have on the very bottom, okay, and I'm going to duplicate that. Only this one, I am going to fill all the way in with sort of this teal color here. So I'm going to fill the whole thing in. So if we turn off these other layers, you can see it's just a full cube, right? Then we're going to take this layer. We're going to set this one to add under the lighten menu. And then we're going to take the Gaussian blur tool and just blur it out. Oops, first we need to make sure we have this deselected so that it can go outside the lines. Let's try that again. So we're going to take this layer, once it's deselected, hit Gaussian blur. And this will cause it to have sort of that glow effect as it goes outside the lines. And we want this to be on top of all the other layers as well. Should keep that in mind. And then we're going to lower the opacity on that so that we get that glow feeling, but it's not quite so crazy. There we go. So now you can see it's glowing, it has that glow effect coming outside the lines. And we have this nice glowing cube. Now if you wanted to, on your multiply layer, you could come back in here and throw in a few little effects with a really fine brush. Make sure we're on the right layer here. Right, like maybe there's some little swirls going on in here or little bubbles, stuff like that, right? Maybe you want to come back in and darken up some of the edges a little bit that are maybe too bright, whatever you want to do, and just keep working it till it looks about where you want. I would make sure you watch your colors and things like that. You could also come in here if you wanted on, like, let's say you could just do it on a new layer actually and set it to overlay and then create kind of just a few little bubbles in the surface. Looks like maybe though we need to try a different layer mode. There we go. Something like that. So you can get some little effects in there. So it's up to you. And you don't have to keep it green, and you can do whatever color you want, but that's how you could create a glowing effect. You could do the same thing with whatever you wanted, right? If you wanted to do it, maybe you want a glowing sword or glowing eyes, right? You use the same effect, same layers, stuff like that. So that's it for this lecture. I'll see you guys in the next one.